I am a con artist. We all are.
Interesting.
We got to con ourselves into believing that we are something different than what we see everybody else being. You got to con yourself into believing that you're different, that you're special.
You are now on a social experiment.
See now where my limit is. Only got no ohs. It's like they just wanna see you struggle. I swear they don't wanna see you shine. They don't. It's like they just want you to bleed and they want you to fall. They don't want you to be where the streets are paved with gold.
Welcome to MasterMine, the home of Black excellence and self-mastery. Here's your host, Mr. G.
Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us today on the journey towards self-mastery. Our next guest is one of the most notorious drug kingpins in United States history. Through his drug trade, he was able to accumulate a net worth of over $1 billion, selling 3 tons of cocaine. He was also part of the biggest drug scandal in American history known as Iran-Contra. His success in the drug game came at a high price. The top police officers in California organized a task force to bring him down. In 1996, he was arrested and sentenced to life in prison without parole. After finding some cracks in the system, his life sentence was reduced to 20 years. He was released in 2009 and has dedicated his life to righting his wrongs and building the community that he once helped destroy. He now uses his platform to advocate for social change, criminal justice reform, economic empowerment in Black communities, literacy education, and he goes to schools, colleges, and other platforms across the country using the lessons that he's learned through his life to spread a message of nonviolence and anti-drugs. He's also author of Freeway Rick Ross, the Untold Autobiography, and Riding with Rick, the 21 Keys to Success. Let's welcome today the original, the one and only Freeway Ricky Ross to the program.
Man, you did pretty good with that. You did good with that. You're on point. Yes, I like it.
We got to be on point, man. We got to get the facts, man.
But you forgot the documentary, Cracking the System.
Yes, sir. I did say after finding some cracks in the system, but
yeah, but that's the name of the documentary. I thought you was gonna bring the doc in because you know my doc was cold. I dreamed that up while I was in prison.
Yes, sir. I'll add it in, man. Let me add it in. I'll redo it.
You don't have to. I was just messing with you.
I'll redo it right now, man.
No. You ain't got to redo it, man. You good. Go ahead. You did a great job. We don't want to mess that up.
All right.
Cool. I thought the way you put that together was well done.
Appreciate you, my brother. Man, I've been really studying you for a long time, man.
So I heard.
I'm excited to have you on the program, man. Thank you for spending some time.
So since you've been studying, man, I know you know the principles.
Yes, sir. We definitely looked at the principles. You know, I'm not gonna show off and name them all, but I definitely have some questions.
You might know them better than me then.
Yeah, man. So before we get started, man, I know a lot of people, you know, history is not taught like it should be taught, even though you are part of history, American history. So a lot of people might not be familiar with your story and might get you confused with a few people, maybe Freeway, maybe Rick Ross, the rapper, who knows, man. So just for some clarity, so people have a good understanding.
You know, people always do that, you know, when you say Rick Ross, the first person they think about is a rapper.
Yeah. It's wild, man. How somebody could just, you know what I mean, claim your name and then it's almost like an identity theft.
And it is identity theft, but you know, when you're a drug dealer, you don't have no rights. You know, they take all your rights. So
definitely we're gonna talk about that, man. But for those that are not familiar, man, I definitely want to touch up on your story coming up. And I think those lessons in your story are super important because people might be like, yo, why are we talking to a drug dealer that is one of the most notorious drug dealers in U.S. history? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny too, man. You don't really strike me as the, you know, hypocritical, stereotypical drug dealer that we see in the movies and whatever gets portrayed about how they function and things like that, man. You seem like pretty chill, laid back, honest type of dude, man. It's really interesting, man. But
well, you know, the way Hollywood portrayed Black men in the movies is not really the way Black men are anyway. You know, You know, all of us don't wear dresses. We don't paint our fingernails. You know, like either you gangster or you homosexual, you know, one of the two, you know, like they just don't have no men, black men in Hollywood is just cool. You know what I'm saying? Very few cool, just cool black dudes. They don't show us on TV, you know, like they don't want cool dudes, cool black dudes on TV. You know, you can be something else, but not a cool black dude, you know. You gotta be somebody like this guy Franklin, you know, who they bit off my story and
Snowfall.
you know, yeah, a serial now. I mean, no, he could be considered a serial killer in my book. You know, as many people he's killed, and me myself, and I'll be honest with you, had I killed all the people that beat me out of money or did something to me, I'd be a serial killer too. But you know, I pat myself on the back that I always had the restraint to make my own decisions and not allow other people to think for me. You know, because a lot of time other people who are thinking for you not gonna have to deal with the consequences. Let me say that.
That's facts. That's facts. Yeah, man. So let's touch on it, man. So your story starts off, your mom leaving Texas. I know you was born in Texas. She leaves Texas for California in the 1960s. You know, y'all was dealing with some racism, not surprising, in Texas at the moment, at that time. And y'all go into South
Back then, slaves might have still thought they was, you know, Texas was the last place to, where the slaves found out that they was free. So, you know, that's why they celebrate Juneteenth.
Yeah, man. So your mom goes into South Central LA. Now, when I think about South Central LA, you know, I haven't been to South Central LA, so all I could go judge it by is, you know, the depiction of the movies, the Menace Societies, the Boys in the Hood, the Training Days, the Straight Outta Comptons, and so on and so forth. So is that an accurate depiction of South Central LA at that moment, or?
Well, not when I was here. When we first came here, LA was like, you know, blacks were like Black Power, you know, unity. They were fighting for their rights, you know. This was before the Watch Riot. We moved right before the Watch Riot. I was here when they had the Watch Riot, so I got to see the Black Panthers march and the US and some of those powerful groups that fought for us to have some of the freedoms that we have right now.
That is interesting, man. So you were witnessing the Black Panthers on the streets of LA, man.
Yeah,
so
I watched.
What gravitated you to the Crips instead of being gravitated towards the Black Panthers?
There wasn't no Crips back then, man. The Crips didn't come around till around the 70s.
Ah, okay.
The first time I saw the Crips, I was 12 years old. So you're talking about like 72.
Okay. All right. So
in the 60s, it was more about Black power, man, Black unity. You know, we were being depressed back then. So it wasn't much black on black violence as it is, you know, today, and as it was, you know, in the 80s and the 90s.
So I know, like in your book, like the neighborhood you growing up is a little bit different than what you mentioned in the 60s. So what happened between that point?
Well, you know, eventually the government was able to get rid of the Black Panthers. You know, Huey Newton went to prison. Angela Davis was in prison. I remember the shootout. They had a big shootout out here, the SLA and the police, man, like a crazy shootout all over the news. Man, they shot thousands and thousands of bullets up in this house where these guys was at, set the house on fire. So they were able to root this Black Power movement out of the system. And they replaced that with the Crips.
Interesting. Before that happens, you know, your first stint of, you know, what's happening in life that you mentioned in your book, like this is the first portion of your book where you talk about your mother having to defend herself against your uncle, your favorite uncle, man, ends up killing him. Can you talk about that? How old were you and the impact that had on you at that moment?
Yeah, I was about 4 years old, just about to turn 5 probably. It was right before I started elementary school. And to actually be standing there and witness my uncle get killed, you know, was Travis, you know, it was devastating for me as a youth, you know. And then not only that, but having my mom taken away, you know, and I'm in a foreign land, even though I had family out here, uncles and aunties, but I didn't really know them. These were people that I was just meeting, after we moved to California. So it was devastating for me. And I kind of attribute that to part of the problems that I had functioning in school, because I didn't do well in school when I was young.
Right. And what was behind it? I know your mom wouldn't just, shoot your uncle for no reason.
Well, let him go read the book. When me and my mom came into the house and my uncle was stabbing his wife, which was my mom's sister-in-law, and my mom and her had gotten to be, pretty tight, but my mom was always the kind of person who tried to be right. She tried to err on the side of right, and she got in it on my auntie's side, and my uncle was much bigger and stronger, and he also had a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a gun, but a knife. So my mom intervened on my auntie's side.
Got you. Okay. So obviously you got no therapy for that. You went just right into school, and I could just imagine that, you probably had issues focusing and learning, man. I mean, like, that's 4 years old, man. Like, you know what I mean? You learning your ABCs, your letters and all that. How do you learn that after that trauma,
Exactly. And then after the one person that you've been tight with is no longer there, mom is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
So that added up even more to the trauma.
Right.
Now I'm staying with people that I don't even know.
So at what point did your mom come back in the picture?
I mean, she probably was only gone for a couple weeks, but you talking about here you are, a 4-year-old kid, you're in a foreign land, you don't really know the people that you're staying with. It's pretty spooky.
Okay. All right. So from there, you talk about, just growing up in your community and, some of the things that was happening. So past that point, what was like childhood like for you growing up in Hoover Street pretty much?
Well, I felt that my life was normal. But, sometimes we'll go through things and we'll make them appear to be normal when they're really not. I mean, I'll use something like when we were slaves, they threw us chitlins. They threw the chitlins away. Well, blacks took it and made a delicacy out of it. And you're talking about chitlins is where it keeps the shit is kept. So we're able to, is it compartmentalize
Yeah.
things and situations to make them appear to be normal.
Right.
For kids to actually see people being murdered is not normal. It's not something that all kids go through. So we're able to take situations and matters and make them appear to be normal, and we can function inside of those situations and not let them bother us the way they bother some people.
Got it. All right. So what would you say was happening like in the community, in your neighborhood at the time growing up? I know in your book you talk about getting into junior high, and that was like a wake up call for you in regards to, some of the violence that was happening and dealing with, the Crip gangs that was starting to formulate.
Well, the first time I ever recognized the Crips was right during the end of the year for the 6th grade. Here in LA, our elementaries went from 1st grade to 6th grade. And then from 6th grade, you move on to a junior high, which is 7th through the 9th, sometimes just the 7th and the 8th. Well, Bret Hart was from the 7th through the 9th grade. And I had never, ran with a gang per se. I mean, we had our little friends, we do our little dirt bike riding and, we go up to the park and we play basketball and football together. But I never understood what a gang was. I had never seen a gang before I saw the Crips. So going to Bret Hart for the first time and walking through what seemed like to me at the time 1,000 guys standing around with their blue rags and their blue jeans and their overalls on. It was terrifying. You know, it was something that I really didn't know, you know. Lucky for me, though, a couple of my friends had knew some of the Crips.
So that kept you safe.
Well, not really kept me safe. I don't even know if I was in danger. You know, sometimes it's not necessarily the danger that really gets you. It's the fear of the danger.
Gotcha.
You know, sometimes we're more afraid of something than really what that something really is.
God, I mean, I understand what you're saying right there, but I'm like smiling because you talk about like being held at gunpoint, man, in your school, like from a you know, I don't know if it was a blood or who it was, but it seemed to be a legitimate reason to be fearful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, but at the same time, nothing happened to me because I wasn't in it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're not really in it, then you don't pose the same consequences almost, if that makes sense. I mean, you can be an innocent bystander.
Right.
I'm not saying that innocent bystanders don't get hit, don't get caught up. What I'm saying is that more than likely, if you're an innocent bystander, it'll blow by you.
Gotcha. All right. I know one of the things that kind of kept you away, kept you distracted from the chaos that was happening was tennis, man. So how'd you get involved in tennis? And, you know, how good were you?
Well, tennis probably saved my life, you know, and that's one of the games that I try to teach all my kids and is tennis because once I started, because I wanted to be a Crip. I had my heart set on being a Crip. You know, I was gonna be cripping. I was gonna give me a blue rag, give me some Levi's and some overalls, you know, and I was gonna do it.
Why?
Everybody else was doing it. I was following the herd. You know, at that time, my young mind was too immature to understand that I didn't have to follow anybody, that I could be the leader.
Okay. All right.
You know, so I was just gonna fall in line. You know, everybody else was cripping. Why not I crip?
So what brought you into tennis? Who brought you into tennis?
Man, one day we was up at the tennis courts and we used to go on the tennis courts and play roller derby and we was just up there roller derbying and this old black guy came by and he had these baskets, balls, and tennis rackets and he made us a bet that we couldn't hit the ball inside the box. And you know how you are, you don't make no bet with no young black kids. They're gonna take you up on it.
And you got it in?
No, I didn't win the quarter, but you know, we found a new game.
Okay. Was tennis acceptable at the time? Because I know there were very few black people, you know, outside of Arthur Ashe that was playing.
It was starting to be more acceptable. You know, we had Arthur Gibson first, who became number one player in the world, and then you know Arthur Ashe at that time was booming. But I didn't know about neither one of them at that time. What really got my attention was one of my partners who kind of stuck with the tennis. Well, he started to get free sweatshirts and free sweatsuits and tennis shoes and rackets. I felt I wanted some of that. Okay. And I thought I was a better athlete than he was.
Okay. All right. So you're playing, you know, tennis and it goes into you playing tennis for your city, your all city number one high school team in the country.
Well, not number one black team in the country.
Number one black team in the country.
Yeah. We probably was top 5 or 6 of overall teams, you know, white teams included.
Right. So you were pretty good. Scholarship was blooming, but at some point you were meeting with colleges and one of the colleges found out that you couldn't read and write, man, and kind of messed things up. So at that point, I'm like, how does this guy get into his senior year of high school not knowing how to read and write, man? Like, what was going on at that point, man, where you didn't get...
Well, you know, because I analyzed myself. I try to figure out the same question, you know, how was I able to do that? But, you know, if you're charismatic, likable, you know, when I was in prison, I read over 300 books when I was in prison. So I ain't illiterate no more. And one of the things that it says is that if you can get people to like you, you'll never be broke. So what I figured happened was I made my teachers like me, and they didn't want to hurt me.
So they thought they was helping you out.
Right. They thought they were helping me out instead of them doing their job and teaching me how to read. They just passed me on through,
Man,
which took the pressure off of them and put it on somebody else.
That's fascinating, man. Looking like, thinking about some of the statistics of Black boys that don't know how to read and write, and that, school to prison pipeline ideology, and seeing what happened to you, man. But, you're getting by.
65% of the guys in prison can't read.
Wow. There it is right there. Man.
And probably another 15 to 20 who can read can't comprehend what they read.
That's fascinating. So, I mean, you're getting by, man. Like your senior year, college finds out you can't read and write. That kind of messes up the whole college and tennis thing.
Always got by.
Right. So
I always got by. I got by in prison.
So yeah, so that moment like messed up the scholarship ideology for you, man. But it's your senior year, man. Why not just finish out the year and graduate? Why did you stop?
I'm a critical thinker, right? And a critical thinker saying, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I here faking anymore? I'm not going to be playing tennis no more. I can't play high school tennis no more. That's over. I'm not going to college. That's over. Why do I fake it anymore? Why do I even try to go to school? Why do we even think about, no way I'm going to make up these grades? I got 3 years of high school that I've done nothing because I couldn't read or write. So the only logical thing to do was to leave it alone. Move on to something else.
So what did you do for that time being, like right after you like stopped coming to high school?
Well, I started back hanging in the hood. I started hanging out with the fellas again that I went to junior high school with, that I went to Bret Hart with. And I found low riding. Gangbanging was jumping too, but at that time, I was a little older. I played tennis. I've been in some houses in Beverly Hills, and I've been up to UC Santa Barbara and UCLA and SC. I saw some of the finer things in life, and I understood at that time, why would you want to kill somebody over a color that you don't even own, or a street that's not yours?
That makes sense.
You take the chance of going to prison forever.
That's facts, man. Unfortunately,
some of the guys that I went to Bret Hart with, man, just recently got out of prison, man. Since they was 18 years old, man. One dude did 45 years in prison.
Wow.
And he didn't make no money. He said, man, I didn't make the kind of money you made. I was on foolishness.
Man, so from there you kind of start, hustling, man. Like, who was it that kind of put you on to really hustling, or was that just your mind state of like, all right, I'm done with school, there ain't nothing happening, other than that, because I can't do this school thing, so I'm a hustle? Like, was that the mind state, or?
Well, I've always been a hustler. Tennis was a hustle to me. I hustled tennis. And that's how I got good at it. So hustling was natural. When I was younger, I used to cut the neighbors' yards and do car washes with the homies and always trying to figure out how to bring that money in.
Right.
So one night, the homies took me, we riding our bikes, and the homies took me to Church's Chicken, which is where all the lowriders hung out at. And I don't know, it was so funny, man. It was like, for the first time, my eyes was open to lowriders. Like, I've been in LA all this time, and I know lowriders have been all over. But when I was on my tennis trip, I guess I had blinders on where I didn't really recognize what was going on around me. But now those blinders was off, and now I see these pretty little cars, and I tell myself, I'm gonna get me one of those.
Got you. So you end up getting you one of those, and then how did it come up to like you getting your own chop shop at 18, man?
Well, it started off me trying to figure out how those guys got those cars. When I saw those cars, I said I wanted one. And what I did is I started going up to everybody asking them, how did you get it? What's the method behind, having these cars? And I finally found somebody who put me up on game.
Okay. All right. So you got your chop shop, you get caught by the police and everything. And you didn't do time for that, man. So what happened with that? And walk us through that and your transition out of that into the next thing.
Well, I caught the case. It wasn't really, the cops weren't really on me anyway. They was on somebody had snatched the purse, and it was in the vicinity of my chop shop, and we thought they were on us. We in here cutting up. We had like 7 cars in there. We cutting up, so we thought that the cops were on us, and we all have a quick huddle and was like, man, every man for himself. And we all break out the door running, and the cops had the whole neighborhood surrounded. The helicopter was there, and man, just so happened the helicopter started following me. So I got this big old spotlight on me. Everywhere I go, the spotlight go, and finally they catch me, and they take me around. The lady said that I wasn't the guy, but now they want to find out why was I running so hard. I was running hard, boy. I'd never been to jail before. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't trying to go to jail that night. So they took me around. After that, they took me to the police station, and they still was trying to figure out why was this dude running so hard? So then they came and asked me, why was I running? What was I doing over there? And I told them that was my shop, blase, blase. And I had my keys in my pocket, and they asked me what was the keys for. I said, oh, the keys are to my shop. And they went over there and searched the shop and found all the cars and whatnot. But they never asked me for permission to search my shop. So that's illegal search and seizure. So I beat that case on illegal search and seizure.
Okay. All right. Got you. All right. So outside of that, I'm guessing you couldn't do the chop shop no more. Business shut down. How did that transition into the next phase?
Well, I was now that my top chop shop is closed down, I'm broke. I was making good money messing with them cars, man. I should make like, you talking about this is like 78, and I'm making like $300 a day. Young black man, no education, making $300 a day in the hood. So now I'm messed up because I'm not making that money no more. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I'm sitting on my mom's porch, and I get a phone call, and it's from one of my partners, and he told me he got the new thing, the mighty power, cocaine, man. He introduced me to cocaine for the, but I'd already saw cocaine on movies. I kind of knew what cocaine was from the movie Superfly. That was one of my favorite movies growing up. Like, I love that movie, man. That dude was. Did you ever see Superfly?
I have seen Superfly.
Not that new.
Not the new one. The older one.
The new one is garbage to me. I was like, wow, man. How could they?
I haven't seen the newer one.
Huh? You haven't saw it? Don't go watch it. You won't enjoy it.
But with Superfly, like, he wants to get out the game, man. Like, you know what I mean? So you watching it, you didn't think like, yo, this dude.
Oh no, I wanted to get out too, but I wanted to get in. He wanted to get in before he got out.
Okay.
He just didn't want to stay in. He didn't want to be controlled by the man. That was me too. I didn't want to be controlled. I still don't want to be controlled by the man. I never wanted to be controlled by the man. That's why I don't have no job. And I see these guys, and let me be quiet. People be thinking I'm a hater. I'll be sounding like a hater. I ain't gonna say that.
I got you. So I know in previous interviews you mentioned that it all started with $150, man. So how is it that a young 19-year-old starts doing this thing? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of drug dealers, right? That deal, they go to jail, they get locked up, or they make some money for a certain time frame, but they don't make Rick Ross money, man. So how do you go from $150 to making millions, man? Like, what was the what was going on?
Well, I practiced the principles, and I was practicing the principles then and didn't know it. One of the first things that I learned, right, and it's crazy how the older homies who were actually using drugs. These dudes are actually drug addicts, but they kept telling me, don't use. You hear me?
Yeah.
You hear what I said?
Yes, sir.
They said, don't use. And I really respected these dudes, right? These are like, these dudes are like gods, like, you know what I'm saying? They had that kind of influence on me. And they telling me, don't use.
That's how they got caught up.
You're going to get rich if you don't use.
Mm.
So that kept ringing in my head, and I adopted that saying, don't use. So every time that the temptation came, it kept popping in my head, don't use. And so I didn't use. Now that was the number one thing, is not to use the product. After that, it was just a matter of scaling up. Taking the money that you had and using that to build a little by little and allowing your sack to grow.
Okay. All right. So you growing the game, you getting more and more people to help you out. What was cocaine at that time? Because when a lot of people think about cocaine and crack, they think about movies like New Jack City and the junkies walking around. Were they junkies walking around at that point, or?
No, when we first started, there was no such thing as a crackhead. We never saw a crackhead. It took a while before the crackheads started to pop their head up. And who we called a crackhead, eventually anybody who used it was considered a crackhead. But at first, it wasn't like that. We didn't consider anybody a crackhead.
Was that down? Like, was that, we talk about like crack hitting the Black community and the impact that it had. Was that during your time, like you saw that, or was that after you got locked up?
Oh, no, I saw crackheads before I got locked up.
Okay.
It only takes some people a little longer than others, a year, 2 years before the tweaking come out of them, where they like, man, I'm selling dope. That's what happened when they really get sprung, because they can figure that if they hang around and sell dope, they can get higher than if they go work on a job and only make, $400 or $500 a week. Or they can stand on the block and run through $200 or $300 and smoke real good.
Okay. All right. So you're seeing all this happening, man, like the deterioration of the community. You're seeing, you had issues like, you almost got kidnapped one time. There's issues with your money coming back with your crew and everything. And you're making major money. You get your Nicaraguan connect, and you're making, millions of dollars a day. You're starting a legitimate businesses. You know what I'm saying? So you're funneling money out of that. Why not go the exit route? You know what I'm saying? From that moment in time, like what kept you in the game?
Well, you get hooked on the game too. The game is fun. You talking about when you the man, you wedge a lot of power, and you get hooked on that power, the thrill. I mean, just the fact that you can help anybody you want to help. Just imagine anybody that come up to you and ask you for help. You could help them if you wanted to. Just imagine the feeling that brings to a person. To know that if your auntie's house was in foreclosure, if somebody got their car repoed, then you could take care of it.
Right. All right. So the first time you get caught up, you get locked up, you're facing some time, but you get that reduced. Can you talk about that whole incident and how you were able to get your time reduced?
Yeah, well, what happened is they had this task force here in LA that said it was the most elite task force in the country. And what they were doing was planting drugs on people, lying on search warrants and so forth. And they got on me. And when they got on me, I recognized what their game was. Their game was kind of like this here. Say they raid your house, you got $1 million there. They take the $1 million, all except 30, 40,000, turn it in, and also plant cocaine on you and say you had 2 kilos of cocaine. So now it makes it hard for you to come to court and tell the judge, hey, Your Honor, no, I didn't have 30,000. I had $1 million. But the cocaine ain't mine. You know what I'm saying? Here you are a young man, no job, and you're going to tell the judge the money yours, but the cocaine ain't. Yeah, right. So when I saw what they were doing, I came up with some strategies to get rid of them, to stop them from doing it.
Right. You hired a private investigator.
That's what I did. I hired a private investigator. So when they indicted me, the prosecutor, he thought he had this slam dunk case with these great cops who were going to come in and nail me to the cross. And then we sprung out the investigation that our private investigator had did and said, you can't believe nothing these cops say. They're the biggest crooks in the business. They're bigger than all the drug dealers put together. They've stole and robbed and tortured more people than you would imagine. I think when they got indicted, 150 guys got out of prison.
Wow. So that was able, that whole case, I guess you testifying against those police officers got your sentence reduced.
Yeah, well, what it was, we made a deal from the beginning. Ohio knew their case was weak, that they were going to have to put those cops on the witness stand and would have definitely tampered their case. But, it was some guys when I failed, and they gave me some sound advice, and they said, if you're innocent and they offer you 5 years, you take it. If you're guilty and they offer you 5 years, you really take it. So even though, the crimes that they had me charged with at that time, I didn't feel that they were my cases, but I knew I did so much stuff in the past. So when they came to me and offered me 10 years, I jumped on it.
Okay, I got you. So that part of your first stint in prison too, you talk about meeting Louis Farrakhan for the first time, man. So I know you mentioned that was a life changer for you, man. So can you talk to us about that moment and what exactly he said that really helped you get right?
Man, he done said so much stuff since I started watching him, man. But I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go see no Nation of Islam. I didn't want to do the religion thing. You know how guys, they go to prison, and as soon as they get in prison, they join, the Nation of Islam, the Sunni Muslims, the Shiite Muslims, or Christian, It's like they doing it as a way of protecting themselves. And I didn't want to be one of those guys. So I really didn't want to go to the Muslim service. But Brother Kenny X insisted, and me and him messed around on the weight pile. And, we became friends. And I kind of liked the way he talked. He got me to go there, man. And I started listening to Farrakhan. And he was talking about stuff like protect your kingdom. And he's talking about your brain. Mm-hmm. You got to protect your brain. You got to protect what you're letting come inside your brain, because if you let anything in, then you're going to be letting anything out. That was one thing that he told me that was great. He told me to study them. And when I first heard that tape, I didn't really know what he meant by study them. And then I went to my room and I was doing my critical thinking like always, and I came up with it. And what I came up with is that he was telling me to study the people who run the country, learn their techniques, learn their strategies. And that's what I started to do. I started to study all the people who run the country. And they gave me some good tips.
All right. So
there's a couple things that Farrakhan taught me. We'd be here all night if I went through all the stuff that I learned from Farrakhan, man. I had dinner with Farrakhan.
After prison?
Yeah, after prison. I went to his house and had dinner with him. It was great. The chefs and cooked me a special meal. And it was just like, wow. You're here with one of the sharpest dudes in the whole world.
Yeah, man. All right. So was Farrakhan one of the motivators that got you into like, yo, I gotta learn to read? Like, or were you doing that before?
No, I'd already started learning how to read before that. I had to learn how to read to get out of prison. One of the first books I ever read, though, the first book I ever read was Malcolm X's autobiography by Alex Haley.
Did you understand when you was reading it? Because if you didn't know.
Of course I did. Even though I couldn't read, I still had a very, very good comprehension of life. What went on in life. I understood a guy sitting in prison not being able to read. I understood that.
Got you. All right. So I know like after your first prison stint, you are starting to think about the impact of what you was doing, and you was like, yo, I'm not doing this no more. And you you come out with the mind state of like.
But I quit selling dope before I went to prison. I quit selling dope about a year and a half before I ever went to prison.
Oh, the first time.
Yeah, before I went to prison the first time, I'd already quit selling dope. I'd already made my mind up. I wasn't never. Well, let me say. I said never sell dope again. That ain't totally true. But my mindset was that I was never gonna sell drugs.
Why? What made you come to that conclusion?
I saw what Suge Knight and them did with Death Row, and I said that if they can do it, I can do it. So why should I risk my life, my freedom, for something as simple as money? And on top of that, why should I hurt other people to get money? When I could do something much safer, much easier, and probably make more money.
Okay. So that was the mind state. And after you came out, man, what got you back into it?
Well, I look at it as if I was a recovering drug addict. And I know you saying, oh, well, you didn't use drugs, but sellers are addicts too. They are. They need drugs. They want drugs. And when they don't have it, they're looking for it. So in a sense, I was an addict trying to recover. And when they came dangling the carrot in front of my face, it broke down my willpower.
Okay. All right. So just long story short, your Nicaraguan connect was connected to the feds, man, and you got set up with that.
And first he was a CIA operative, but now he had become a DEA informant.
So you got set up with him, and you got arrested again, second time around, and now they got you.
I never sold no drugs though.
Yeah. For
even with that, I didn't sell any drugs. They did what they call a reverse thing, where the government bring the drugs and give them to you on credit. You do a dope deal on credit. Man, come on, stop it.
Got you. So they, you get caught. They ruffle you up a little bit, get bit by some dogs and all that, and you're facing life in prison without the possibility.
No, I got a life sentence. I wasn't facing. They gave me a life sentence.
They gave you life without the possibility of parole. And, Jesse Cass, LA Times reporter, he goes in, into the prison to interview you. So Jesse Cass says, now here he was a 3-striker, no possibility of parole, and he seemed to be more buoyant than ever. Maybe denial was his only prayer. Rick had plans to produce a mixtape, to launch a clothing line, to stage prize fights, to film a biopic, to show all the naysayers, the cops and prosecutors and moralists and cynics that they had thrown away the key too soon. Adversity would make him that much stronger. Freeway Rick, the lost cause, went right on dreaming. So at that point, what made you think that you was gonna get out in the first place, and what kept you dreaming about what life was gonna be on the outside?
Now that Jesse told me 30 days after he came there and visited me, I won my appeal. No, I had started studying those principles, and he said in the article too, I was testing their plausibility. I was checking to see if they really worked. And what I had come up with was that if I got smart enough, the prison would be too small to hold me. So my goal was to get as smart as I could so that prison couldn't hold me. That's how I knew I was going to get out, because I was smart.
Gotcha.
Yeah, after Jesse had came down and 30 days after Jesse had come down and was doing that interview, I won my appeal, But I already knew that I should. I knew that I should win my appeal, because the only way I would lose my appeal is if they didn't go with their laws, And that's one of the things that they hate, to go against their books. Once they put in a book and they say this is presidents, they like to stick with those. And I knew the presidents was on my side. And like I said, 65% in prisoners can't read, and then probably another 15% comprehend. And I think the same thing goes for judges, lawyers, and prosecutors. Probably 30% of them can't read, and probably another 10% can't comprehend. So when I was trying to show them the law, they couldn't comprehend it.
That's funny. So what exactly was it? I know you said you ran into a few words, man. What were the words?
The words were just continuous criminal spree. It's a difference between a career criminal and a criminal that's on a continuous criminal spree. A career criminal is somebody whose crime is interrupted by an arrest, but a criminal spree could run for years and not get interrupted. So that person can't be a career criminal because it's just one criminal episode.
Gotcha. So
you get it? You don't get it. It's complicated.
I understand what you're saying, man. I definitely, studied that a few times. You talking about that. So it was a continuous thing that you were doing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like a guy going outside his house one day, and his son needs a surgery and they need $30,000. And on his block, these guys got a crack spot and it's rolling. And he goes out and he starts selling, dope. And it's just one day. He was only doing it one day, but he sells to 100 different people and they're all police officers. So technically, those are all separate offenses. But it was only one criminal spree.
As opposed to, doing it on, different occasions, different,
Well, even if you do it on a different occasion, if you're not arrested, then the spree is not interrupted.
Okay. I know. I see what you're saying now. Like, so as long as you're not arrested, you're not on record for it, then it's one spree.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a criminal spree.
I got you. All right. So at that point, your time was, significantly reduced, and Jesse Cass was wrong.
Well, after the appeals court said that I was right, that it was a continuous criminal spree and not crimes that had been interrupted. They said something like, you can't punish a person. How did that go, man? I don't know.
So you get out of prison, and what I'm saying, you was making millions of dollars a day, man, and now you come out and you struggling, man.
Broke.
So how
$200.
How do you maneuver that in your head and not go back to doing what you was doing to make money? And then how did you get out?
I knew I was smart. I just beat the United States government. When you walk in that courthouse, they say Ricky Ross versus the United States government. And I felt like I just beat them. Bang, 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 bang. So when I did that, I knew that I just beat one of the most powerful systems in the world.
Got you. Okay. So, like, how did you get back on your feet then? Like, business-wise and all that?
Slow process. I went to Joe Rogan's show, and I'm telling Joe that I was broke. And I'm telling this so maybe, I'm like, quite naturally, Joe, you say you're a fan of mine. You respect my mind. You ain't going to see me out here broke. So Joe told me I need a T-shirt. And when I left Joe's show, I was mad at Joe. But I was walking down the street one day, and this kid came up with this T-shirt. The real Rick Ross is not a rapper. And if I say how many of these I done sold, the IRS will be knocking at my door.
Okay.
Hey, you see, I got boxes of them right here.
I got to get me one of those.
I got to show you. I got boxes of them right here.
So that was the recipe for success right there. Okay.
That was my first bread. I took that bread, I did the book. The book got me into the weed business. The weed business got me into boxing.
Interesting. Now, some people might be like, "Oh, the weed here he goes again." You know what I mean? Like selling drugs again with the weed. And
it's legal.
And in that same story, Jesse Cass was like, he mentioned like some critiques about you profiting off of your criminal past and you kind of being a con artist kind of thing. And some people might be like,
I am a con artist. We all are.
Interesting.
We got to con ourselves into believing that we are something different than what we see everybody else being. You got to con yourself into believing that you're different, that you're special.
All right.
Even though you're really not.
I got you. Speaking of being different and special, man, in your book, 21 Keys to Success, your co-author talks about, the queen of cocaine, Griselda Blanco, and it was just a completely different lifestyle story than the one that you live, in your prime. And, I mean, she's known for having done over 200 murders, man, and being ruthless, man. And generally, like we talked about earlier, like the image of the drug dealer is this ruthless kingpin that, like he has beef, he's going out killing people and doing this and that and the third and hiding bodies and doing all that stuff. But you claim, none of this happened on your watch. You were pretty nonviolent.
I don't claim that. I never said that.
Well, you weren't directly part of any of that happening.
I just said I never claimed it, though. You said I claimed it, and I said I never claimed that. That's what the DEA and all them, they claimed that I never did participate in that. And I never argued the case, neither way. I never said I did. I never said I didn't. But at the end of the day, that's the DEA who said that I was a nonviolent drug dealer.
I got you.
I like that title, though.
So would you, like, I wouldn't say, like, you don't strike me as the type of person that was ruthless. And, I've heard you talk in previous interviews and you talked about a lot of, like in situations where somebody did you dirty or did you wrong, you would try to, resolve it or just let them go, man. So,
I did. Yeah, I did.
So, looking into that, man, like you weren't doing some of the things that others were.
I wasn't doing no stuff. That would be stupid. To kill somebody over some drugs or some money would be stupid. I would risk doing the rest of my life in prison over some money, over some drugs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I hear these kids robbing over chains and watches and cars, I'm be like, that's stupid.
So why? My question too is like after prison and things like that, you didn't have any beefs with anybody. Nobody's out to get you. You still walking your block, your neighborhood. Everybody respects you, likes you. A lot of times when we find that people come out of prison after a long time doing a bid and doing some dirt in their neighborhood, people don't like them, man. They gotta sometimes in witness protection. Sometimes they gotta move to another state, another country, whatever it is. So, what makes you able to walk in your block on your streets and for people to still have that respect for you?
You just said they do dirt. They kill somebody. They stole from somebody. I fit none of those categories.
Got you. All right. So people might be like, yo, this dude, don't deserve to be out in prison. He's responsible for, the crack epidemic in the Black community, and just did so much, that really helped, set us back years and years and years and years. He don't deserve to be free. And then people might be like, well, it's the government, man. Like that really was involved in that whole thing, and getting, crack cocaine into the streets and stuff, like into Black streets, and the crackheads and all that stuff was the government's responsibility. So how much responsibility do you give yourself, and then how much do you give the government? And I know what you're trying to do to right some of your wrongs, but what do you think the government should be trying to do for Black people at this point? Well,
this government was never in our favor anyway. From the time we came over here, we're the only people who ever came over here and changed. I tell them before, I've said it many times, I played a part in the dope game, so I do have some responsibility. But the government, who was supposed to be in place to protect us, me myself too, because who would have never know what would have happened to me? I may never become a drug dealer had they not allowed Blandon to bring dope over here to the country to introduce me to it. So absolutely, the government has a responsibility and an obligation to protect the citizens and not let them be used as guinea pigs to further a war that they're trying to win.
Mm.
Yeah. Can we in there?
You want to? Oh, you want to wrap?
Maybe we do another segment. Yeah, maybe we do another segment for about 15, 20 minutes later. I'm beat.
All right, so we was about to go in, man. I was about. All right, man. We was about to
save the end. Let me do it when I'm fresh. Maybe we do the sun tomorrow night.
Okay. All right.
We do 15, 20 minutes tomorrow night. Get 15, 20 minutes of questions together and let's do that. And
yeah, that's all I had left, really. Anyway, so
let's do it tomorrow. I'll feel better tomorrow. You probably get more energy out of me tomorrow. Might get you to laugh a little more. I like to see you laugh. It's good when you laugh.
All right, cool, man. Cool.
All right.
You want me to hit up your manager?
Yeah, hit up Echo. Let him do something.
Okay. Same time?
All right. Same thing. No, let's do it earlier.
Okay, we can do it earlier.
All right.
All right, my brother.
Thank you.
So every day I'm going hard. I'm talking business, bank accounts, and credit cards. And somehow we defeat the odds and making sure that no one's starved illegal or you had a job.